Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's Shay Ryan Douglas here, and I'm with Dr. Espen. Really exciting episode today. We're going to look at what is going on in the world right now. We're going to talk about what's relevant, and Dr. Espen's really going to share some vital information that can enable us all to look at, these life-changing decisions and steps that we take in our lives to evolve our consciousness, to evolve our life path, our life journey. And it's a really exciting discussion that we're going to open up, and I'm really honored to have Dr. Espen here. He's been on an absolute mission over the last many years of his life, and it's we're witnessing history at the moment. I'm really excited to hear a little bit more around Dr. Espen and what he's been doing with his quantum advanced events. He's got one of the biggest ones coming up in December, and it's really an honor to have you and have your time here, Dr. Espen. Really excited to share this information with the world. It's going to be super vital for people to know, particularly in this time of transition. So much is changing, so much is evolving, and at such a rapid rate. It's like we're coming to this crossroads and we've got to make these decisions, and to be informed with these decisions is what I feel is the most relevant, and what gifts you have to share with us all today. So thanks for joining us, and absolute honor to have you here, man.
Privilege and pleasure. Greetings, everyone. So honored to be here with you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Espen. I'll have the privilege of guiding you through some really important questions. Socrates used to say the quality of your life is the quality of the questions that you regularly ask yourself, hence the term Socratic questioning. So I really want to talk to you today about what's happening in the world without projecting any of my values or views or opinions onto you, but rather to be able to turn the attention back within to ask quality questions so that we can prepare for what is coming. I'll start with a short story. When COVID first hit about almost 2 years ago, I thought to myself, what is really going on here now? And you could see, like when you look at your hand, what you see when you look at your hand is bones and skin, right? So I can look at this and go, okay, so I can see that this hand is physical. But in fact, if I put this hand under a microscope, you're going to find that this hand is way more than physical. If you go deep enough, you'll see a molecule. Then if you go deeper, you'll see an atom. I'm sure you've heard of molecules and atoms before. If you go deeper, you'll find in the middle of this atom is a thing called the nucleus. And then there are meaning below then, subnuclear levels of nature's function. What I mean by this is that if you take anything, your physical body, your brain, your heart, anything physical at all, this table, for example, and you put it under a microscope and you go deep enough with this microscope, you're actually going to find that you are made up of 99.9 and then 8 more nines. That's 99.999 and then some more %, pure space. You are made up of more than 99% pure space. That means that only a very, very, very tiny percent of you is actually physical. So when COVID hit, I started firstly, like everyone else, looking at everything that's going on in the world and looking at it from a physical perspective. What is happening here physically? But as you know, there are a lot more brewing underneath the surface. As you know, there's 99.9% of me that is unseen, if you will. And so we then recognize that everything in the world, not just our hands or our physical bodies, but everything in this entire world, on this entire planet, is energy. Everything is energy, and less than 1% of that energy is physical, and 99% of that energy is energetic or space or non-physical. So then when we do realize that this is happening, we can look at the world and the events that's happening in the world from a very different lens. For those of you who are watching right now, pop a comment in the chat section wherever you're watching from. If you're watching the recording, pop a comment in the chat section too, because we want to hear from you. We want to hear any questions that you might have, because this is going to be a very, very, very important quick conversation. So the first concept that I want to share with you is, one, we're made up of 99.9% pure space. What's happening in the world right now is only 0.00001% physical, and there's more happening behind the scenes. You might have your own opinion as to what's happening in the world in regards to what we can see manifesting on a physical level. Through the events and 4,700 graduates now, we're about to have 250 students attend our next 3-day paid event, the 3-day seminar immersion, and we'll wrap up at almost 5,000 graduates before the end of the year. So we're really excited, really honored to do this kind of work, to deliver this kind of work to people around the world. And what our students have learned is that there are these certain energy centers in the body, and they're related to different areas of life. So when a specific energy center or a chakra is blocked, it actually manifests in suffering in the area of life. I'll give you an example. If you eat a lot of unhealthy stuff and you get bloated and you get stomach cramps, the physical manifestation of of a sick stomach is pain and bloating. But the pain and bloating is not really so much the problem. It's actually the energy in the stomach that's the problem. What I mean by this is that what's happening and this is really important for you to take a note on, what's happening in the world right now is an expression. What's been underneath the surface is coming to the surface. The corruption that we know is happening in the world and the things that are out of balance in our world, the fact that we know that everything around us, what's happening in the world, is a projection, an expression, or a manifestation of our collective consciousness. I'll say that one more time. Everything that's happening in the world right now is an expression or a manifestation of what's happening collectively for all of us together in our lives. So I personally believe that this is the Great Awakening. And when COVID first hit just under 2 years ago, hey, Daryl, good to see you, bro. When this first happened almost 2 years ago, I knew intuitively right away that there was more behind the scenes than what we could see. Now we can obviously see a lot more to the agenda, a lot more to what's really happening and going on. And I even said this to my team and to my crew and family almost 2 years ago. I said there's a lot more behind the scenes. The first thing that I did is I got rid of my apartment where I was living in a 2-bedroom unit with my son, and I hopped onto 10 acres and a property further away from the busy parts of the world, because I needed to find my space and be sovereign and safe, because I knew what's coming. Everything that I projected at the time, everything that I've shared with my team, basically, thanks, Eric. Thanks for sharing the event, you legend. Love you, bro. Everything that I projected at that time has pretty much come true. So I'm not here to forecast the future to detail, but I am here to give you some understanding as to the fact that we're living in a cyclical universe. Everything happens in cycles, to the fact that my belief is that this is the Great Awakening, and everything, including the poverty and the sickness and the disease and the pollution and the corruption and everything that has been going on for thousands of years, is now coming to the surface. This is my belief. And please disregard it as it's just a belief. It's a hypothesis, if you will. However, my second point today is to ask you a question. Since we now know that 99.9% of us and everything around us and within us is energy, which is non-physical energy. It's energetic waves. Lower frequencies or incoherence equals suffering and disease. Higher frequencies or coherence between the parts of the brain, the brain and the heart and the body, mind and spirit, is ease or grace. So anything of a lower vibrational incoherence is suffering and sickness, and anything of a high vibration or ascension means that we live beautiful, healthy lives. If this is the case, and Nikola Tesla proved this a long time ago, we know it by science to be true to this day, then my question to you is, what do you believe is happening in the world right now? What do you believe is happening right now? Do you believe that you're a victim of what's happening externally? Do you believe that life is happening to you? That the restrictions and the politicians and all the stuff that we can see in our lives that we point the fingers at, that they're to blame? Or that we are a collective expression of what's happening here now? I'm not here to say that anything is good, bad, right, or wrong, but what I do know through science, quantum physics included, is that everything around us is a projection of our level of consciousness. So what I believe is that we need to understand that we have the power to change this. Okay, that we have the power to change this, that collectively we have the power to come together to create the change that we wish to see in the world. Good to see you, Valerie. So that's the second thing I wanted to mention. So the first thing is everything is energy. The second thing is the collective expression of our consciousness, which when we understand this, and my question to you is, what do you believe? Take a moment to consider that question. What do you believe is happening right now? Do you believe, like I believe, that this is the Great Awakening? Or do you believe that you're a victim of something that is purely corruption or perhaps something else, and that's just how it is? I know for a fact, and through thousands and thousands of graduates throughout the world now, that we have a belief in our movement, in the quantum family, that life does not happen to us, life happens for us. And if this is true, and if we can understand that we are maybe spirits or souls having a human experience, a temporary three-dimensional expressional experience, then maybe, just maybe, we are here for a reason. Just let that sink in for a moment. What if you are born and incarnated into this human experience in this very time, at the end of this dark age, to experience this awakening of humanity? What if this is the time that you've been waiting for lifetimes and lifetimes? I can't tell you for sure that it is, but I truly do believe that I'm here as a critical part of the awakening of humanity to then, of course, help the planet, etc. which is my second point. Now, the third point that I really want to speak to today is just extremely important. This is something that many people in different states, including New South Wales and Victoria in Australia, have been experiencing for a long time, including people in other countries in the world. I mean, I just spoke to a couple of my team members a little while ago in the Philippines, and they had not been able to go to the children's playground for a year and a half. I mean, there are some absolutely insane things that have taken place in the world, and I'm not here to project my opinion onto you, but what I will say is that right now in Queensland, where I know there's so many of our students and so much of our family here in Queensland, right now in Queensland, there are major restrictions coming in next week even. And at this point, it is, I feel, very important for me to share with you that I am at this point going to need to take a stand. And I'm not so going to do this by sharing and shouting and being that person, but I'm going to, like I will suggest to you, make a decision as to what I'm willing to sacrifice and what I'm not willing to sacrifice. Of course, I will not do anything that'll be violent in any way, shape, or form. That's not what we teach. But what I will do is stand in my sovereignty. And what that means is that I will decide for myself what I'm willing to subordinate to and live into, what I feel is intuitively correct, what I feel is honorable and authentic, what I feel is accurate for me and my soul, and absolutely what I am not willing to do. So this is the question for you. Now that the restrictions and everything is coming closer and closer together, the pressure's on. My question to you, perhaps for you to ponder with your family, which is going to be different to someone else's family and different to me or different to someone else. This is not me saying what's good about it, right or wrong, but what I'd like you to do is to sit down, and if this is benefiting you, then share this with as many people as you can. I think now in Queensland specifically, it's time for us to sit down with our families and have a conversation as to what do we do? How far are we going to be a part of this, and where are we going to say no? Or are you going to just go all the way and just do whatever the government tells you? I'm not going to say what's right or wrong, but I will say at this point, the pressure's on. And when I say the pressure's on, what I mean by that is you can feel it, you can sense it, you can feel it everywhere in the air. I truly do believe that my number one word for today is faith. Have faith. Trust that this is happening for you, not to you. Trust that this is perhaps the Great Awakening, or, this is all God, the greater organized design, call it the Great Spirit, call it the quantum field, if you want to keep it a scientific conversation. But I truly do believe that all of this is actually happening for us, not to us. If this is the case, my friend, then at what point, if at all, will you take a stand? Without any violence, but at what point will you say, I do not consent, or that will not be me? I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I know that right now in my life, I'm going to have to make a stand. And I have made the decisions. I had a conversation with one of my coaches and mentors today, and for the executives as well, and spoken to several people. What we are doing now is we're doing masterminds. We're doing roundtable conversations where we're chatting about, okay, well, when this stuff is happening in the world, what are we going to do as a conscious community to be able to support each other? What are we going to do as a conscious community in order to take care of each other? And how are we preparing for what's coming? Of course, I trust that you would have stored your food and water, and maybe got into some cryptocurrencies and looking at alternative therapies, and looking at communities where you are able to gain access to the resources that you need for your family to live and to be well. I mean, it wasn't long after the pandemic first happened, just under 2 years ago, where I did share this. I did a live on this. If you scroll back on the Facebook group, you'll see it. I said, okay, it's time to prepare food and water, time to pray to whatever you pray to. It's time to get yourself as sovereign as you can, so that you are as little, and I mean little, you are to the less of your ability, to the best of your ability, you are not dependent on the government and the system. You have less freedoms the more you are dependent upon the government. So if you're able to source your food and produce and all that sort of stuff locally, have a look at that. I won't go on a rant, but I will say this: the pressure's on, my friends. The pressure's on. And I don't know how long it's going to go for until they hit their KPIs, their margins, or whatever's going to happen. What I will say is You are here for a reason. I truly believe that you're born and alive for a very specific reason. We have a lot of students all around the world, and a lot of us are in Queensland at the moment. We are here with you. We stand with you. We support you. We love you. And it's time now to reach out to the people closest to you and create those connections and know that you've got everything you need in case this thing does get more intense, because I don't think it's over just yet. So I just want to take this opportunity to share 3 things with you. As I said, number 1, know that everything is energy. 99.999% of that energy is non-physical, which may mean then scientifically that everything around us, everything that we experience and express, everything that we see and experience happening in the world is actually a collective expression of what's happening inside of ourselves. So if we wish to heal this, we just go into meditation and we start sending, and this is really imperative, love to those people that we judge. We start to send love and peace and forgiveness to those people that we think is making the world a worse place, because they're actually a projection of our consciousness that we haven't learned to love yet, that we haven't fully healed yet. So let's do that. Let's understand that everything is energy and that we are the heroes that we've been waiting for. And all we've got to do is to send love, peace, and healing and forgiveness to those people that we judge, and that way we can change the world. Step number 2 is asking ourselves the question, what do we believe? What do we believe is happening in the world? Do we believe it's happening for us or to us? If you believe that you're a spirit or a soul having a human experience, then maybe, just maybe, you are here alive, listening, breathing, feeling, experiencing this presentation right now for a very, very specific reason. What if you are the hero that you've been waiting for? What if? What if? And as I said, number 3 is that at some point there will perhaps it'll come to a point where you're going to need to make a decision. Because as our freedoms are picked away slowly but surely, we don't really notice it. So we've lost a lot of our freedoms already. At what point will you say, not enough, that's enough? At what point will you say, I do not consent? If you choose to, or just go with exactly what you're being told through media. I can't tell you exactly what's right or wrong, but your intuition can. And a conversation with your loved ones can help you find those decisions within. And then understand a lot of the things, I just want to point this out, a lot of the things that's happening in Queensland right now, such as us as employers being coerced and forced to do certain things, being threatened with fines if we have employees that have not done certain things. It's pretty absurd. We've been forced to discriminate, as you know. So the point that I'm trying to make here is, when I look at that and I understand what's happening, these plans that are coming out, government is saying you need to do this, you need to do that, they're exactly that. They're a plan. I'm getting guidelines as an employer. I'm getting guidelines as a primary healthcare physician to act, speak, and say and behave in a certain way. But they are guidelines, ladies and gentlemen. They're not necessarily law or lawful, and they're not necessarily something that we have to do. So know your rights and understand that if you're getting a guideline to do something, it might be a guideline. It may not mean that you are forced legally to discriminate. It may not mean that at all. It may be just a plan or a guide. So know your rights and understand that, because if you are making a decision, you're going to have to be responsible for that decision. You're going to have to be responsible for the ramifications of discrimination if this is relevant to you. They may not be. And for us patrons, there are to attend places where we are able to go or not go. Well, it doesn't matter whatever you've done and who you are and whatever else. What matters is what you do from now on. What matters is that if you know your rights and you know your sovereignty and you know what you're willing to say yes and no to, and it's up to you what you consent to. It's up to you what you do with your life. It's up to you what you do with your body, because you are a free spiritual conscious being. And this is what I wanted to leave you with today. It's time to have a conversation with our loved ones. It's time to have a conversation with our community. It's time to have a loving conversation, a non-violent stand as to what you are willing to do and what you're not willing to do in your life. And I just wanted to share this with you, because if we don't have this conversation right now, we can slowly but surely trickle down this thing and don't even know what happened. We look back in 2 years and go, oh my gosh, what happened? And then we have systems in place that, where we have lost all of our freedom. So I know this can feel a little bit conspiracy minded for some of you. That is not my intention here. It is really interesting though, because what I spoke about just under 2 years ago is seemingly literally happening before our eyes. So I just wanted to take this opportunity out to perhaps trigger some of you. But if all I've said is 1, everything is energy, 2, what do you believe about yourself and the world, and 3, is it time to have a conscious conversation with your family, I think they are some pretty good bits of advice. So if you feel like this has been useful, please comment in the chat section. I see you guys are commenting. I appreciate you so much. Please tag and share this with as many people as you can, because it's now time for us to unite. It's now time for us to come together to create the shift and the change that we wish to see in our world. We turn the attention back within and we send that love, peace, and connection without. If you have any questions, comment in the chat section, guys. All of me loves all of you. I honor you so much. And as I said, I truly do believe that you are born here alive, listening to this for a very specific reason. Thanks for being part of our family, and I'll see you soon.